Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Planet FPL Clash of the Correspondents. My name's James, and I can assure you this is the most drunk Clash of the Correspondents ever recorded because all three of us have got a hangover. Firstly, let me introduce you to our Chelsea correspondent, Ted Maw. How are you, Ted?
I'm good, mate. Not as good as you two, but I'm all right.
Introducing Ricky Saunders, our Tottenham correspondent. How are you, Ricky?
Mate, I am. Yeah, I'm good. I'm very good. A little bit hazy, but yeah, we're all good, mate.
We'll timestamp this just in case there's some sudden double game week announcement or something. It's just coming up to 12 p.m. UK time on Thursday, January the 20th. Me and Ricky have got hangovers from Tottenham last night, pretty bad. What's your excuse, Ted?
Uni student, that's my excuse.
It's a very good one, mate, actually. What's going on with Chelsea, Ted? Are you in a bad moment?
It's the winter. We always have bad moments in the winter. Yeah. I mean, we've got, what is it? I think one league win in the last 7, I think is our current record, which is not exactly title challenging, is it? But still, I mean, it's still only 4 losses in the entire season, which is, I think, even better than City in all competitions. So, I can't be too mad. But yeah, it's a rough patch at the moment.
Title gone?
It was gone a while ago, let's be honest. City are going to run away with it.
Why do you think you've had this kind of sticky spell of results? I guess for me and Ricky, we feel like, having watched you dominate us twice in the cup semi-final, it doesn't feel as like you're on that kind of bad a run, but when you just kind of dive into the league results, it's obviously not great at the moment.
It's different when you look at just Spurs. We do special things against you. We love playing you, but yeah, it's.
Who invited him?
I'm very aware I'm outnumbered here, so I probably should be careful about what I say. So Tuchel was talking about tiredness and fatigue and all of this setting in, which I'm sure is a really genuine problem. But I think it's so much more complicated than that. I think there's so many issues going on. We've talked before about potential lack of leadership within the team, and I do wonder if that's a bit of the case again here. I like the dressing room a lot more now. I think there's a lot less sort of toxic egos going on, but I wonder who's there that will actually stand up and when things get tough, sort of slap them and get them back into shape. Because right now, with instances like at the weekends, Lukaku and Ziyech arguing at halftime, go into the changing rooms. Now, I'm obviously not a footballer, but if I was the captain, surely you're looking to make sure that that's resolved before you come out for the second half, because it was still going on when they came back out the changing room. And I don't know what's going on in the changing room where nobody's challenging that, nobody's seen that as part of a problem. Because clearly there's a lot of chemistry issues going on at the moment between the front three. And the last thing we need is them arguing. Obviously, players are going to argue all the time in teams. It's just a natural thing. But why is that going on more and more? Is it down to us continuously sort of rotating the players we play, which is sort of the opposite of the tiredness issue? It's possible. It looks like we're losing a lot of chemistry. The front three especially can't pass it between themselves at all. There don't seem to be any sort of those sort of connections. But even further back in the team, we've got so many misplaced passes recently. It's just painful to watch. It's on Tuchel now to make sure he can sort this out and go through it. We can't start putting pressure on Tuchel for this because this happens every single year. And it's time now that we get some consistency. We stop changing, we stop sacking managers, we stop changing tactics. We just get it settled, we get it sorted.
Do you think the manager's under threat then?
From certain people will definitely put pressure on him. Yeah.
That's
100%.
mad, isn't it? Surely.
Yes, it is. Completely mad.
But it's the Chelsea kind of model, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. We've talked about this before. I absolutely hate it. When Lampard came in, I was saying I really hope that this sort of settles us down. We can sit with him a while. We can, give him a chance to sort the team out. And he was saying, like, I think it was pretty much exactly a year ago, he was saying how this team is sort of a mix of signings from so many different managers sort of just stuck together now. And we're not in a place where we can consistently fight for a title because we can't grind out these consistent results. And it takes time to change that and to get it settled and get it sorted. Just like, Liverpool had to go through, just like City had to go through. We need to take that time and settle the team and get us, set up for the system with the players that we need. We can't do that if we keep changing it as soon as we go through one tough patch. It's really important now that we back our manager and we back him well.
What do you think here in that, Ricky? Because we've watched them outclass us twice. We're all in agreement that they're miles better than Tottenham at the moment, and yet it doesn't sound right.
No, I'm quite surprised because certainly looking from the outside, not as a Chelsea fan, it looks like they've got everything that they need. They've got a fantastic squad of players, got a world-class manager, got a chairman that his objective is to win. And it's interesting what Ted says about Tuchel being under pressure. I think every Chelsea manager is under pressure of losing his job pretty much from the day they walk into the club, because Abramovich is that ruthless. Even if you win the Champions League, you sack 6 months later. That's the way that Chelsea do business. So it's quite. I wasn't expecting to hear that. I'm quite happy to hear it that there's major problems at Chelsea. But yeah, you'd from looking the outside in, you'd think that they're the kind of club that you want your club to be like. Just free spending, great players, winning attitude, and they buck the trend every year by sacking the manager and still winning trophies. They do what everybody says you shouldn't do in order to be successful, and they're still successful.
Them results, Ted, looking back to them, since you won at Leicester 3-0, and you was extremely impressive that day. Drew with United, won at Watford, we were very fortunate. Lost at West Ham, won last minute against an injury-ravaged Leeds, failed to beat an injury-ravaged Everton, drew at Wolves, fine, won at Villa, fine. You drawn twice with Brighton, obviously drew with Liverpool, lost at City. When you look at the league results going back sort of full 10 games or so, it's mid-table form, isn't it?
This is what happens every winter. Every winter, this is what happens now. It's just repeatedly doing this. Well, that's the question, and it's figuring that out. And a lot of people,
because it's not like it's a pattern of, say, fatigue under the same manager. This is obviously recycling and happening over and over.
Yeah, there's clearly some sort of argument there that at this time of year, players start to get tired, they start to struggle, and maybe that sort of the new manager bounce is too short term, but there is always sort of that sort of a slightly longer term one, if that makes sense. And that starts sort of wearing off around this time of year. Is that the issue that's going on? Is that when sort of players are starting to take their foot off the pedal, starting to feel more settled in their position and not competing with their teammates as much? Is that what's going on, or is there something deeper within the squad that's the issue? Personally, I feel like I should have the correct answer because we've seen it so many times. At this point, I feel like I should be able to tell you exactly what the issue is and exactly how we fix it, but it's not simple.
In December, you had a lot of issues with COVID, particularly, and stuff. Obviously, you weren't the only club. Your squad is so deep, and I feel like after the Brighton game, Tuchel was still using it as an excuse, and everyone's back now. It felt like when he was complaining after the Wolves game, it felt fairly acceptable. There was a good shout really for that game being postponed, actually, when you reflect on it, particularly with some of the other more recent postponements. But listening to him after the Brighton game, it felt to me like enough now. It's not really an excuse now. Everyone's back. Your squad, in my opinion, Ted, is the best in the league. I think your squad is better than City's.
Yes and no. City have the luxury wherein I think their backups are a lot closer in quality to their starting players. I.e., if you switch them around, they'll settle in very happily. Equally, the players that they can bring in as backups were players that were sort of signed by Guardiola and trained under the same system with Guardiola, whereas ours is a bit sort of all over the place. Just take Ziyech, for example, very much a Frank Lampard signing, coming in to play 4-2-3-1, 4-3-3. He wasn't brought in by Tuchel to play a 3-4-3. So again, those sort of getting the players set up into the right sort of tactics, right, and some mindset is tough. I think I might be unpopular within the sort of Chelsea circles for saying this, but I agree. I don't think tiredness can be an issue because all teams go through these intensive periods, and we have the luxury of having a lot more depth than, say, Liverpool do, and they seem to always come through these periods fine. So I think we should be able to deal with it. And when, Tuchel's complaining about tiredness and whatever, but then not playing Havertz against City, for example, and playing Lukaku repeatedly, are you just bringing it on yourself then at that point? It seems weird to then complain about it, but then not act on it.
I think I'm missing the two wing back spin. I mean, that's pretty huge, and they're obviously still missing, aren't they?
Yeah, it's losing that athleticism is a big loss, as well as their crossing ability, as well as their sort of the security they offer. It has hurt our system a lot, but again, it shouldn't be just that's causing its drop. A lot of people will put that down as one of the major reasons. I think there's a lot more going on than what we know.
Go on. The floor is yours.
No, I don't know. A lot of it's just sort of blind theories at this point, and I don't want to dive into it too much. But I think it's important that we start thinking about what's going on, what the sort of core issues are. I could talk for ages about sort of the tactical side of it and the problems that are going on.
Well, me and Ricky can just hit the mute button. You go, mate. Like, crack on.
I'll have a little snooze.
If you sort of compare the last 6 games against the first 6 games, we are probably conceding a similar amount of chances, mainly because there was a couple games early on where we conceded a ton of chances. I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it was like the Liverpool game when we went down to 10 men. We lost a lot there.
I think like Villa at home, Brentford away, Mendy did well in both of those games particularly.
Yeah. But we're finding increasingly that teams are more able to push through our sitting 2 midfielders and then attack that space between midfield and defence. When we have that, it's very important that players like Rudiger step up. Problem is currently when someone like Rudiger steps up, we've now got a backline of, say, Azpilicueta, Thiago Silva, a gap, and then probably a covering Marcos Alonso. When that happens, we're starting to lose a lot of pace, which means we're increasingly seeing teams coming behind. And therefore, we're seeing a lot of the chances created, even though we're getting a similar amount of chances created, a lot of them are a lot closer to our own byline. They're getting into these dangerous positions a lot more. That was quite true against Brighton as well. So we need to think why our midfield is not able to run the game as securely as they once were, especially because we've now got Kante and CotC back fit. We should be in a better position than ever to do that, yet we're still not. So we need to think what's going on there. What's the issue? The other issue is going forward the other way. Our transition's a lot weaker. We've returned back to this sort of scared phase where we don't want to play those risky passes. We want to play it sideways a lot. We want to move it around the outside of the box rather than playing those sort of penetrative passes in. That's part of the reason why Lukaku is struggling, because we want to play it straight to his feet and have him hold it up. That doesn't suit Lukaku. We need to play it into those channels like we do with Werner, let him run onto it and then hit it. I did notice we're starting to do that more against Brighton, which is positive. I think I saw, well, I say more, I think I saw about 3 times it happened. In comparison to previous times, that's like 3 times as many though. We haven't been doing it in previous games. That is a sign that is good, and we need to work on that more. Equally, if we're playing with Lukaku, we can't do that sort of intensive press up front because he doesn't seem keen to do it. Someone like Havertz will, which is why I wanted him to play against City. So if we're going to start running with this argument of we need to play horses for courses and rotate our forward line freely, so on and so forth, then we need to start thinking when we've got someone like Lukaku on, we have to play to his strengths. And we've got to accept that we need to be better in the transition, bringing the ball through the middle too, and then linking up play with the sort of the wide 10s rather than just trying to ping it in straight to Lukaku, because it's not going to work. He's getting too isolated, and then we're losing the ball and then immediately having pressure come back on us. If we can't alleviate pressure, we're going to lose these games.
You can unmute now, Ricky. Good stuff, Ted. I'll ask you, Ricky, before I ask Ted, just so you can get a word in. I love that, Ted, by the way. What did you make of the whole Lukaku thing with the comments about Inter?
We've had similar kind of things at Tottenham, and you kind of hope that things are lost in translation a little bit. You know, maybe he's spoken in Italian, and it's, you know, there's been a really poor translation from Italian to English, but it doesn't seem that was the case. It seems like what he said was actually what he said. Once again, unless you hear the whole transcript, you've always given snippets, and I don't think if you look at the whole thing, it was as bad as what it was initially made out. But he's obviously got a lot of love for Inter still. He's obviously not entirely happy at Chelsea. It hasn't worked out exactly as he would have liked it to. The style of play that Ted just talked about, I think, is a major factor in that as well. Obviously, he was the main man at Chelsea. He's not so much the main man. There's other players around him that are getting the limelight. So I just don't think it's worked out, and I don't think he truly wants to be there. And I don't know what it is with Chelsea and strikers. It's something that a lot of people have mentioned before, and we've been talking about it for years. But get a striker, and for a number of reasons, it just doesn't work out. And I don't think Lukaku's going to work out if he genuinely doesn't want to be there. That's not going to change. He probably needs to. Maybe needs to move on. As silly as it sounds, he's been there a few months. Yeah, I know, but it's not working out. And unless there is a bit of a restructure of the squads and Tuchel brings in some of his own players that are going to play in his system, and he's going to buy players that are going to suit Lukaku. Because look, at the money that he was bought for, he should be the focal point. Everything should be geared around getting the ball to him in the positions that he wants it, so that he can put it in the net. And if that's not going to happen, then I can't see how they're ever going to get the best out of him.
Yeah,
Ted?
I talk a lot about how it shouldn't be about the players, it should be about the team, i.e. no one player should have all the power within the squad. And we should be having players adapt to the system rather than the system adapt to the player. However, if you look at our forwards, who there is going to score goals? I think our top scorer in all competitions across the entire of their Chelsea career, currently, I'm not including Mount in this, is I think Pulisic. He's got something like 17 goals in 71 appearances. It's something like that.
Jorginho's got more, hasn't he?
Well, I'm not counting him as a forward, obviously.
Is he still your top scorer though, mate?
I think he is, yeah. It's just painful, man. It's not good. And Tuchel himself was saying a while back that if Jorginho was our top scorer, we're in trouble. But like players like Hudson-Odoi, Ziyech, Havertz, Werner, are they really going to score the goals for us? I no, they're not. We need a consistent goal scorer in our squad currently, and I can only see that being Lukaku. So I've got no problem with Lukaku playing consistently. I've got no problem with us changing our system slightly to be able to make the best out of him. But we need to acknowledge that this is something that needs to be fixed. For the record, his comments did slightly break my heart. I'll still support him because he's a Chelsea player, but yeah, that hurt.
I think it really helped that his first game afterwards was against Tottenham, and the fans' focus was completely on beating the rival rather than something had he actually played against Liverpool, the situation might have been worse, actually. Interesting. What do you make of the change of system? It feels like there might be a tweak happening. Certainly it was a back four primarily in both games against Tottenham. It was a back four against Brighton. You spoke in the summer about Tuchel potentially wanting to go towards a 4-2-2-2 or 4-2-4. Is that what's happening right now? And is it because Chilwell and James are absent primarily?
Yeah, partly, yeah. When we don't have those wing backs available, we also don't have the wingers available to make proper use of our width. So it does make sense in part to split to a back four. I think that was originally brought in just to counter, well, partly because of injuries and to also counter Conte's system. We found it was very successful, so now it's been trialled more. It's somewhat easier to do it at the moment because our fullbacks are quite often a winger and Marcus Alonso, or Azpilicueta and Sarr in the middle, and again one of the wingers. Because of that, it does lend itself to moving to a back four when needed, and it's something that might worry Alonso FPL owners potentially for the Spurs game, because I think again we'll set up in a way where we can switch between a back three and a back four. It'll probably be back four when we're going forwards, and then when we defend, it'll be a back three. Because of that, you've got to have only 4 defenders on the pitch, which means we either play Azpilicueta as right centre back, and then say Pulisic at right wing back, and then Alonso on the left, or we play Sarr in there somewhere, use Sarr as the left back when needed, and instead play, say, Hudson-Odoi as left wing back when we're defending. So that was something a bit that worry owners. That certainly worries me.
I wouldn't think for a second that Alonso wouldn't play on Sunday, personally.
I think I can definitely see it happening. It's definitely a possibility. I'm not saying that I wouldn't have it in my predicted lineup. I'm just saying it's a distinct possibility. Yeah. It's an option available to us.
What about Kennedy? He's back.
He is back. Yeah, that is another one that will split opinion in the Chelsea base. I'm fine with him being back, to be honest. If that's our best solution, so be it. I don't want to suspend, say, like 30 mil on a Digley like player to have as a backup for 6 months. I think that's just a stupid waste of money.
Yeah, it's a tricky one.
But Kennedy is a left winger by trade. He has played left wing back before, I think under Conte at Chelsea. and he was all right, but not great. So I'm not expecting big things from him. He's certainly not going to overtake Alonso or anything like that from what we've seen so far. But I'm fine with having him as a sort of as a backup option there.
Okay. Ricky, let's talk Spurs a little bit, as me and you like to do. Last night, mate, what the hell happened?
I don't know. We've seen a familiar pattern in games of, I'm not going to say Tottenham dominating, but Tottenham creating enough chances to win games 2 or 3 times over. And I watched that first half. That first half was really good. I was really impressed. The energy, the dynamism. Harry Kane had about 4 shots in 20 minutes as well, which, what we've seen so far this season was excellent. So it was a really impressive first half. We went down, we brought it back. But there was hopes there, and we're still having chance in the second half, and then it goes 2-1. It's just this is Tottenham all over. This is what it's like to be a Tottenham fan, and I wasn't expecting that last 73 seconds. Is that what it was? 73
it's
seconds.
Staggering.
I've never seen anything quite like it. I sat here and I was watching the game, and I could hear the Leicester fans. It's happened again. Within less than a minute and a half of them singing that, we've actually won the game. I don't know how. I can't explain it.
It was deserved, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, definitely. We were the better team. There's no two ways about it. And Conte reflected that in his. He said we deserved to. He goes, even a draw would have been really unfair in us. And it was quite funny watching his conference or his interview, because I don't think he knew what to make of it either. I don't think he understood what he just seen. He just simply said, my players want to win every game. But yeah, I don't know. I've always been, and this goes back to the Pochettino era. We've always been a team that will play to the end. We always got late goals and late wins. But that was something.
I watched under Mourinho. I watched us play for 20 minutes and defend for 70. Yeah,
not Mourinho, but like Pochettino. It's like the Swansea game, the Fulham game. We were winning games right at the very death, and it was like a hark back to that time, which, to be fair, was the best time that we've had as a Tottenham fan. So that was it was pleasing. It's finally, I think, after quite a long time, we're starting to see some of that mentality on the pitch that Conte's obviously got. He's a beast for winning games and wanting to win, in his desire, and we're finally seeing some of that come across. But yeah, definitely deserve to win.
Do you think Tottenham are capable of getting a positive result, be it a draw or a win on Sunday at Chelsea?
If we play like we did yesterday, yes. But we just seem to have this mental block whenever we play Chelsea, like no other team that we play. And we can go out there against Arsenal and beat them. Liverpool, we always seem to play well against, and we don't generally get the rub of the green. City, we've got this knack of just beating them, no matter how bad we are. But Chelsea, we've got this mental thing where it doesn't matter where we are in the league, where we are as a team, we can't beat them. I can't explain it, mate, but our record against them is horrendous. And I can't see that changing this weekend.
But if I'd asked you the same question 24 hours ago, you would have told me no chance, wouldn't you?
If you'd have asked me this time yesterday, we were getting absolutely smashed at the weekend.
So why should one game change anything? Is the interesting point.
It's not the game. It's the mentality that I've seen. It was the attacking intent. It was the free-flowing football. We just looked like such a better team, especially in that first half, going forward. Even defensively, and I know that we weren't great defensively. We let them walk through for 2 goals, but look at the defenders that we had available. That was a second, if not third, best defence. That's nowhere near our first choice lineups, and I don't know if the weekend's going to come too soon for Romero. I'm still not too sure. Yeah, I'm still not too sure about the availability of Dyer. There's some mixed messages about whether he's going to be fit or not.
Dyer, I'm not expecting to be back either.
No, so that's going to be probably the defence that starts against Chelsea, and that is worrying because that's not a very good defence. It's not very good at all. But going forward, we know we can hurt them. We can hurt any team going forward if we play like yesterday.
So when you saw the team though last night and you saw the midfield three, Winks, Skip, Højbjerg,
I just assumed there was some massive bus being parked.
but it was nothing like that, was it?
No, it wasn't.
They played well.
It wasn't even close to that. But all right, the fullbacks are pretty much what we expected them to be. Very much a makeshift centre-back trio. And then Højbjerg, Skip and Winks. There's no creativity really there. We just got to be parked and just try and play on the counter. And it just wasn't like that.
We actually got to see Pierre-Emil Højbjerg play the position he plays for Denmark.
Yeah.
He was allowed to go. And I thought it was probably his best in terms of on the ball. It was his best performance for Tottenham since he arrived, actually. He's had better defensive displays, but in terms of his actual quality on the ball, he actually looked like he could be a creative footballer last night. He was wrapping the ball in to Kane and Lucas numerous times, head up forward. Tottenham had a real intent to go forward last night, it felt. Sometimes those players are really sticky in terms of they're quite samey, sideways. There was real intent and I'm not just talking about lumping the thing long, it wasn't that at all. Generally pass through lines into Kane and Lucas. Yeah,
we've seen so many times that we will sit back and we'll wait for an opportunity. And last night it felt like we were going and making our own opportunities. Let's do this for ourselves as opposed to pick up on a mistake or wait until we win possession on the edge of our 18-yard box. We went hunting for it, and that was great to see.
Ted, do you think the fact that Ricky's saying Tottenham I've used the term inferiority complex about Tottenham in terms of playing against Chelsea. Do you think that it's in part because of how big the game is to Chelsea in terms of the supporters, and that's translated and the players know and understand that?
Yeah, I think definitely so. I mean, what's the record? It's something like
we don't need to do that bit, mate.
Well, I think you've won once.
You normally beat us, Ted.
Stamford
That'll
Bridge?
do.
Yeah.
Once about 34 years or something stupid like that.
Nah, listen, he's not been. I mean, in terms of at Stamford Bridge, Tottenham have won once there since 1990 in terms of games at Chelsea.
Yeah. 33 years. I did us a disservice.
Easy, Ricky. You've also got a problem counting. That's 32 years.
32,
mate.
Yeah.
It's the hangover. It's fine. Yeah, it's definitely something that comes into the thinking, because I always look forward to these games. It's one I truly enjoy, and it is something the fans really enjoy as well. So I'm sure that does transfer across to the players. And I don't know how much of it is on the psychological side for the Spurs players. I don't know if it's something coming into an environment knowing that the other team are incredibly up for it, whereas I'm assuming if you're going into a game like Arsenal, you'd be a lot more motivated. I think I'm correct in saying.
Yeah, we don't. Obviously, when we kind of both pushed for the title when you won it under Conte, was your manager at the time, wasn't he? The rivalry became a little bit more intense, and there were some really close games. We beat you a couple of times, you beat us a couple of times. There were a lot more even. Obviously, the two teams have gone in different directions since then. Yeah. Certainly on the pitch, there's a disparity between certainly the quality in Chelsea's team to Tottenham's team at the moment. But I don't think it helps that you're better than us and you always come with a stronger mentality than us, because the game means more. Our game is Arsenal. It's not that we're not up for Chelsea, but for you, it's still the game. If I said to any Chelsea fan, what game do you want to win the most? Every single one of them's going to tell me Tottenham.
Yeah,
no Tottenham fan's going to say Chelsea.
Yeah, it's a very one-sided thing. I get sort of similar vibes from sort of England-Germany rivalry almost. For us, playing Germany is a lot of a bigger deal than Germany playing us, and I think that definitely does come into it. You've got to acknowledge that the difference in quality is an impact. I'm trying to think which years Spurs have been better than us. There's not a huge amount.
Well, I mean, to be honest, the year you won the title under Conte, we were pretty even. You obviously deserved to win the title. You finished 7 points clear of us, but that real run you had of sort of the 13 wins in a row is what made sure that I think it was 13 wins in a row, I want to say, which actually ironically ended at White Hart Lane. Is obviously what clinched it. You had the title basically won there and then in January. We were pretty close on that level. And obviously the year before, when we pushed Leicester, you finished 10th?
Yeah, we don't need to talk about that season though. That season didn't happen.
Let's talk about it.
No, I don't think we need to. Funny enough,
do you know what? I'm just trying to. I know Aaron Lagor, bless him, our Leicester correspondent. He's going to be listening, and he said he's going to mute me this week. And I just want to say good morning, Aaron. I thought I'd throw in the title win, make you feel better this morning. Crack on, Ted.
Yeah, well, clearly when we know we're the better team and feel the need to come out and prove it to a serious rival, I think that helps us a lot. I think knowing that you're there to put the rival down, I think that gives us a big boost. I don't think that's been something that come into play for you for many seasons.
Would you rather, if I said to you this weekend you're playing Tottenham at home or Norwich at home, what would you
rather? If you hadn't won, I'd be a lot more confident going into this game. I love Spurs games. I'd say I'd rather play Spurs purely because the enjoyment I get from the game. In terms of confidence, it's not at its best level, I'll be honest. So maybe I may want to save it for a happier time.
I'm not picking on Norwich, by the way, again, before the Canaries get at me. It's just the fact that Chelsea actually beat Norwich quite substantially earlier in the season. Yeah. If I'd have said Burnley, Ted would have probably just said to me Tottenham straight out, actually. Yeah. Ricky, what do you make of this rivalry? Is it a rivalry for you?
It is. It kind of feels a little bit manufactured, if I'm being honest. I became a Tottenham fan in the 80s when, sorry, Ted, but Chelsea were a bit of a nothing team, really. You're in the second division, weren't really going anywhere, piss poor crowds. And Arsenal was our game. And Arsenal didn't seem to bother about Chelsea. West Ham were equally as poor. So I think it's almost like Chelsea had to find a rival. And we became that rival because we were another London club. And it just so happens that you did that at a time when you were bought out by a gazillionaire and went on to do wonderful things. Yeah, obviously, I don't particularly like Chelsea. We want to beat them because they're a London rival, but they're not. It's, as you said, James, Arsenal's always been the game. That's the one that I care about.
And it always will be.
Yeah, it always will be. And there's a lot of it's not just the fact that they're North London. There's many other factors in there as well. Chelsea, yeah, it all feels a little bit manufactured. It really does.
Do you think there's a case in that, in the fact that it doesn't help Tottenham when the game comes round?
Yeah. When we play teams like Fulham and Palace, it's a London derby, but is there any rivalry there for you?
No.
Is there, when you go to games, is there a difference in the atmosphere like you would get at a North London derby?
No, with respect to Palaces and Fulhams, you're going to get games that are more intense when you play Uniteds or Liverpool's. The London vibe there, it might be different for them, but for us, it's just another game. It's no different to playing Norwich and I think, or Villa or whatever. Sorry, Villa fans. That's another set of fans I've just pissed off.
But I think even when you're inside the grounds, the atmosphere for a North London derby is so different, even for a Chelsea game, and that has got to come across on the pitch to the players. They will sense the importance of the game, even if they've never watched English football. This is their debut for the club. They will sense how important the game is by the atmosphere.
Yeah, it felt like during that second leg, and there was no way it was getting turned around anyway, but it felt to everybody, do you know what? I just get this out of the way. Sunday against Arsenal is more important at the time last week, before obviously the game was postponed. Do you think, Ricky, that in the end the postponement really helped Tottenham last night?
Yeah, it probably did.
There you go. Thank you, Arsenal.
Yeah, well, I could talk for a very long time about that postponement, and I could rant.
Don't do it, Ricky.
Yeah, I'm not going to do it. But no, I think on the whole it did, definitely. Obviously, I think that what we saw last night in regards to our style of play is a result of what Antonio Conte is doing on the training ground.
Been a week to work with him, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. He hasn't obviously got all the players he wants available, so he's working with the players he's got, and he's drilling them into his way of playing and his mentality. So, yeah, thanks, Arsenal. You've just given us 3 points in the race to beat you to 4th place. Thank you.
Talking about it's the race to 3rd. Chelsea are bricking it, aren't they?
Well, was it 4 games in hand and 8 points behind?
Shut up, Ricky. Ted, on serious, and just very briefly, you're not looking over your shoulder about that, are you? And I don't mean Tottenham specifically. I just mean top 4. Really?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we now have to be more looking over our shoulder than we are looking forwards.
I get that because first has gone. I don't think we can concede that. But you don't got any doubt that you'll finish top 4, surely.
I would be still very confident that we'll finish top 4. I know we're more than good enough, but I like what Arsenal are doing currently. I have a lot of respect for Conte. United are pesky little things and they'll keep coming back. So it is something we've got to look over our shoulder. We can't just sort of assume that it's going to be completely fine because it's not.
Really interesting. What do you feel about Conte, Ted? And I don't mean in terms of Chelsea-Tottenham rivalry. I just mean generally about Antonio Conte. Obviously, you had him. How highly do you regard him?
I've got a lot of respect for him. I do think he's a really good manager. And he's especially good at doing very well with what little he has. I think it's important you do, if he sees a fundamental issue in the squad, something that's going to strongly limit you. For example, I know he's been complaining about the right wing back and whatever. I would definitely want him to fix that if I was a Spurs fan. But I can see him doing very well because I know he will sort out your defence. He'll build you a solid sort of base to build from that with clean sheets. And when you've got sort of players like Kane and Son up front, I know you'll also score goals. So I can see you doing very well. And I know Conte is the guy to do it.
Happy with what you've seen, Ricky, obviously.
Yeah, very much so. The defence has definitely improved, the organisation at the back, even though we haven't had our best defender available for what feels like the whole of the season, really. He's only played a handful of games, and the defence, we've gone from a 4-4-2 to a 3-5-4-1, and we played 3 at the back, 4 at the back. So we've changed formation, but it does now seem to be working. We've got some cohesion there, and even our fringe players are coming in and doing okay.
Any concern for you if there's no signings this window in terms of Conte?
In terms of Conte, yes. If he's earmarked a player that he wants, or he said, I want strengthening in this position, and we don't do that, I wouldn't be surprised if he walks away. Wouldn't be surprised in the slightest.
I think like results like last night are going to help massively in terms of the connection. He'll grow with the players that he has got after things like last night.
It will help with that, but will Levy, after watching that, turn around and say, actually, we've good with what we've got? Is that
we're not.
Well, I know we're not, and Antonio Conte knows we're not. But yeah, Levy worries me is that if it's not broke, don't fix it. And after he's seen that, he might think, well, it's not broke.
It's a tough window, though, isn't it, to get quality in this window?
Yeah.
Do you expect Tottenham to make signings this month?
Yes, I don't think we can. Even the most rose-tinted, spectacled Tottenham fan will look at that squad and earmark several positions that need strengthening, and Levy will be doing the same. As always, it's going to come down to money. I keep hearing, obviously, we've talked about it for a long time now, Adama Traore. That went from an almost certainty to now I'm hearing rumours that Levy wants a loan with an option to buy. That's not what Wolves want. And if he's pushing for those kind of deals, it's not going to happen. And there's a lot of quality players out there. And all right, we may not even get them in January, but there's loads of free signings available that we could potentially push for the summer. And I'm not hearing anything. And even if Conte was to be told, look, we're going to get these players. It's not going to be in January, but they're coming. I think that would be good enough. But we haven't even done that.
Yeah, agreed. Outgoings, who'd expect to go? What about last night's hero?
Well, we've turned down 2 bids from Ajax. Apparently, they came in with a £15 million bid.
No, I was talking about Matt Doherty, obviously. No, I'm joking. Go on. Stevie Bergwijn, keep going.
Bergwijn will stay. There has been a lot of talk about him leaving. No, he will stay.
Do you think? I mean, if Ajax really up that, he'll go, won't he?
It depends how much they up it by. Levy apparently wants a lot more than the 15 million that they've offered.
Of course, he wants more than whatever anyone's offered for anybody, mate. You know that.
And Ajax, they're not generally a team that spends a lot of money on individual players, so I can't see them going super high. So no, I think he will stay, and I think that we need him to stay as well. We don't have a lot of midfield options in that position that are in form and that we can trust, and I think Bergwijn is starting to prove that he can be trusted to Conte, of course. Doherty, Doherty. I don't know. I've got a feeling he's going to stay. He features in every single game, so there's clearly something about him that Antonio likes, which worries me. It genuinely does.
But to be fair, he was good in the second.
He was.
He only played the second half last night. He was good last night. It was fine. There was nothing wrong with his performance.
Yeah, it was the best performance I've probably seen him have in a Tottenham shirt. Certainly for many months. No, it's not.
I agree with you.
It's not. With other players, who's going to buy them? You know, we're going to want to recoup as much as possible on Ndombele, and no one's going to give us that kind of money. It's just who's going to buy the players that we don't want, and I can't see there's going to be many takers if I'm being honest.
And Ndombele, how do you feel about that?
Go, mate.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. Do you know what? Right, I watched what was happening with him coming off the pitch, and the first person I thought of, if you remember, going back a few years,
Hossam Ghali, you're going to say?
Boutros, mate. The way he just came off, threw his shirt down, and from that instant, he was never a Tottenham player ever again. And for me, that was the same with Ndombele. It's an important game. All right, look, we're not gonna come back and win it, but this is a London derby, not as big as the Arsenal one, as we've discussed. But no, you can't just stroll off the pitch at your own leisure. And to see Harry Kane, a player that apparently doesn't want to be there, pushing him off the pitch, said everything to me.
Harry looked right back to his best last night, didn't he?
Oh yeah.
He was outstanding.
I know we haven't really touched on FPL too much.
Off you go, Ricky. Go on.
Well, no, I was just going to say, at the minute, I have no Tottenham players. I've got rid of Son because of the injury. I'm not going to get any at the moment, but that's purely because I'm waiting for doubles to be dropped. As soon as they are, I'll be bringing back in Kane because he looks bang up for it again now. His goal last night was typical Kane. That's what we've come to see. Chasing the ball down, taking on a defender, leaving him lying on his arse, and then putting it in the bottom corner. Kane is. I'm not going to say he's going to score 20 between now and the end of the season. I don't think he's back, but he's up for it again, and that's going to make a massive difference. And I will be getting him when we've got some doubles.
10 shots last night.
Yeah.
From Kane.
Yeah. And what's that? Is that 5 goals now in 5 games?
I'm not sure if he had 10 shots under Nuno Espirito Santo.
Probably
I'm not even joking either.
Probably not, mate.
No, he's back to his best. I just felt like his movement, like he was actually taking people on and running at them and stuff. Like fitness-wise, he looked much better. What would you say to someone who's sitting there with Kane in their team at the moment?
I'd keep him. Our fixtures, other than potential doubles that are coming up, our fixtures aren't amazing. They're good, but they're not amazing.
Agreed.
But Harry Kane is Harry Kane, and in that form, he can score against anybody. So if you've got him, keep him. But I wouldn't be bringing him in just at the moment. I'd want to leave it a couple more weeks or have some information on doubles.
I think realistically, no one is buying unless there's some mad double game week announcement that no one is expecting, like Burnley Tottenham next week. I'm not suggesting for a moment that's going to happen. In fact, I'm fairly certain that's not going to happen. No one's buying a Tottenham player now ahead of going to Chelsea in any case.
No.
It's more a case of, okay, do you want to look again in 24 when Tottenham play Southampton? The problem I think for Kane is that would probably be the entry point. Okay, Southampton at home, nice fixture. Wolves at home's tough. They're stingy at the moment. Then it's City away. Then that doesn't feel so great. Then afterwards, Leeds away, Everton at home. I guess as a group of 5, it's not too bad from a fixture perspective. But in 24, everyone's got a different priority, isn't it? It's to buy Salah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to work it so that I can get Salah. I mean, I can get Salah back. I can go straight to Salah. That's not a problem. But can I find the funds to work in Kane as well, and or another of that value? You know, so could I get Fernandes, for example, until I get Kane? It's difficult. I can get to Fernandes and Salah, but I can't find that additional at the minute for Kane.
What about those sitting there with defensive assets?
Do you know what? That's a real tough one because we've been a lot better defensively, but I'm still not really. I'm not really drawn to the
it's the personnel that's worrying you, more than the structure, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Reggie is too expensive for what he offers, which going forward is not as much as I think we all think he offers. certainly in returns wise. And I know you don't buy the defenders for the attacking returns. Emerson, well, he's in a battle for his place with Doherty. So I'm not going to turn to him. Dyer's injured. Romero is injured and probably too expensive anyway. I'm not going to go out and sign Jaffet. So it leaves me with Ben Davis as really my only option for guaranteed minutes.
And Tottenham might be targeting, I mean, again, you're not buying this week, so this is probably more a case for February. Tottenham might target a player, left-footed centre-back. It's a possibility as well.
So as better as we've been defensively, I think there's better value elsewhere. I really do.
If you had, you'd hold. Like, what would you say to Dyer owners at the moment? I guess most weren't intending to play him this week anyway.
He wouldn't have been played anyway, and you're not gonna lose any value on him. So yes, stick him on the bench until we've got some more information about when he'll be back. Because there are some games coming up where we could be keeping clean sheets. So yeah, if you've got them, I think with all the Tottenham players, if you've got them, hold them. If you haven't, don't bother just yet. Just sit tight.
What about those who perhaps got Lucas in for the double?
Lucas is going to play. Lucas is a favourite. Once again, Lucas last night, he just never stopped running. He's never going to get you double point hauls, or it might get you one a season. It's difficult because he's at a price point where you've got other players like Rafinha, even Gallagher. So I wouldn't probably sign Lucas at all, but if you had him, I might be tempted to get rid of him this week because you're not going to play him against
I think it's move on. The fixture is a good excuse. I think he was one who I would have encouraged people to go with him on the free hit actually, but not actually buy into their teams. I think the fixture away to Chelsea gives you a good excuse to sell. Plus, if this system with the three in midfield sticks, and if Sonny is back for Southampton in 24, Lucas will drop out the team.
It'd probably be him. Yeah,
it'd have to be, wouldn't it? Unless he was going to consider using him at wing back, which he's shown no sign of wanting to do, and in which case, even if he did, that would really put you off from an FPL perspective.
Yeah, massively. And with everyone trying to find the funds that they've spread around for when 24 rocks around, someone like Lucas Jacob Ramsey is fairly obvious move to me.
Ted, any Spurs players for you at the moment?
None. There's a few that I'll.
Is that just because you hate us? Or?
It's just because you've been not very good. Let's be honest.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I won't argue that. No interest to take it at the moment.
I'll always be keeping an eye on Kane, and your defenders are always on my radar because they're at a price point that is not outrageous. But there's no. Well, I mean, I've got no plans at all with my team currently, but I've got no plans with Spurs players to come in at the moment.
And Chelsea players, where are you at?
I've currently got Rudiger and Alonso. Anyone else that owns both of them, my condolences. It's not been particularly fun, I'll be honest.
Are you condolencing yourself?
I am, yeah. I'm sort of feeling sorry for myself at this point.
What's your plan?
I will sell Alonso this week. Rudiger may well stay because I've currently got a lot of flags in my team, so I've got a lot of other problems to sort. At least when Chelsea do start playing again, I'll be happy.
Alonso's got a good scoring record against Tottenham, being serious.
He does, yeah. But I
can't bear to look at him anymore.
Yeah, I'm kind of a bit fed up with him. He's always at risk of getting subbed early, which might be a good thing.
In a weird way, yeah.
Yeah, because we tend to concede late. But I'm just sort of, he's not going to be a long-term player that I want. There's a lot of defenders that I am eyeing up, be it either potential doubles or to fix the shocking error of not having Cancelo in my team.
Yeah, I think those who've got multiple Chelsea have obviously got an issue. I mean, you look fine for this week, but obviously as it stands, it's Tottenham this week, blank, Crystal Palace away, blank.
Oh, yeah.
Then a brilliant run of fixtures from game week 28 to 32, which is very similar to what you had sort of game week 7 to 11 when we were all going for Lukaku and all ended up captain Havertz, and let's not go down there again. No one's doing that again. But if you've got multiple, you probably need to think about what you're doing right now, don't you? Because of the upcoming blanks. 24 is definitely going to be a blank because it's set midweek fixtures. There is no chance of Chelsea playing in that particular game week. 25, I think you might still play, mate. the Arsenal game was scheduled for that game week, and I wonder if it might still end up in that game week because you're obviously playing the Club World Cup that weekend. Your midweek is available afterwards in 25, and I think you might still have a fixture in 25. So it won't look as bad, but
still not good.
Currently, as you're looking at it, you're looking at 2 fixtures in the next 5 game weeks. It's sell time, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd say any Chelsea players you have, any of them, sell them if you can.
Could you make any case for someone who's sort of up massively on Rudiger to hold on?
I mean, I'm potentially going to hold on to him just because I might have bigger problems. But having a good bench is important.
I love his secret FPL strategy. Sell all our players. I'm secretly going to keep Rudiger.
Well, what reason is there to have Rudiger currently? Other than, long term, he'll be nice. But
I think the first reason is I still fancy for a clean sheet at the weekend. Because of what we've spoken about with the 2 teams and how they're going to match up at the weekend. What have you got, Ricky, in terms of Chelsea players?
Nothing now. I've had a Chelsea defender for the whole season until I got rid of James in 21. I got rid of Rudiger in about 16, I think it was. I was doubled up on them. Got rid of James when he got injured. I've got no plans at all to go back. Certainly not defensively. For obviously if James and Chilwell were available, that's different. But they're not. They're not conceding. They're not keeping enough clean sheets for me to go in on Rudiger. He will pop up with a goal every now and then, but not often enough. Forward line, you can rule that out for a start. I'm not going anywhere near that. So the only real player, if I wanted to rely on penalties, I'd get Jorginho, but the money's better spent elsewhere.
Ted was just sick in the back of his mouth, by the
way. The only other one that interests me is Mount, but I'm just not going to bother. I've got none. I will obviously revisit it for that run they've got coming up because it is a fantastic run. But once again, when you get there, there's going to be other teams potentially having lots of doubles, so you may not go there.
Yeah, it really depends how it lands, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If you get to 28 when it's Burnley away or then Newcastle at home, if other teams have got doubles dropping into those weeks, which they could do, you might want to be entering those teams rather than looking at Chelsea, particularly, of course, obviously that run does include Norwich away in game week 30, which could also be postponed, obviously, if either of you are still in the FA Cup, which certainly in Chelsea's case is quite likely, although that game could be brought forward, ironically, rather than pushed back. I mean, suddenly you could land with, I think it's 28, I want to say, is available, I think, Ted, for your Champions League second leg midweek. It could be Burnley away and Norwich away. Then we would be steaming in, wouldn't we? That's -4, -8 for treble Chelsea defensive, isn't it? It's only Chelsea defenders that score goals anyway.
Yeah, I'd be all in on that. But other than that kind of scenario, I can quite easily see myself going the rest of the season without a single Chelsea player.
I think most people are going to want a defensive player at least during that period. But you're absolutely right, Ricky, to say it really does depend in terms of how the fixtures fall. And I think if anybody else is doubling 28, 29, then Chelsea might get bypassed and we might not be looking for a while. And I think similar applies to Tottenham. Yeah. Game at 27 is quite interesting because Chelsea, Leicester, Liverpool and Arsenal will blank. Tottenham are at Leeds. And I think by the time it comes round, Kane might interest many from a captaincy alternative to perhaps go against Ronaldo against Watford maybe. Or Bruno, of course, against Watford. Interesting, guys. Thank you so much for your time. Before you go, let's do some predictions. Ted, the game on Sunday, correct score, please.
I think it's going to be coming down to maybe how the wing backs match up and how your forwards press. I'm really interested to see what happens there. I'll go like 2-1 Chelsea. I think if I say anything other than a Chelsea win, I might have to turn my Chelsea membership in.
Go on, Ricky.
I'm sorry, James. I hate myself, but I think 2-0 Chelsea.
You don't have to hate yourself, Ricky, because I'm going to say exactly the same. And I'm going to say 2-0 Chelsea as well, because you and I know to be realistic, particularly about this fixture. But I think we both feel a lot more confident about it than we felt exactly this time yesterday. I mean, this time yesterday, I was a Chelsea certainty for a clean sheet at the weekend. Yeah. I don't quite feel that way now, but Chelsea assets you've got, honestly, I would still play them if you can. this weekend. Also, before I let you go, guys, considering Ted, you reckon you're in a Champions League race. Predict the top 4 for me in order.
Jesus. City, Liverpool, Chelsea, Spurs.
Get him to say it, Ricky. Go on, do the same, Rick.
Exactly the same. I think the top 3.
Do you think we'll finish 4th?
Yeah, I do. Look, we've got the best manager, and I think that actually goes a long way. And last night he made Doherty look like a half decent, not a decent, a half decent.
Some credit. We have to. Yeah,
and after last night's game, I will do. If he's making him look half decent, he's doing something quite amazing on the training pitch. It's 4th is ours to lose now. With the points we've got and the games in hand we've got, it's ours to lose. And Antonio Conte don't lose. So, yeah, City, Liverpool, Chelsea, Tottenham.
Definitely the same top 3. I actually think that Arsenal will finish 4th. But I think if it is us, Ricky, I think it will be because of the manager.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Not because of the players. No,
absolutely.
It's the manager.
For me, West Ham, United, and Arsenal all have better players than us. We shouldn't be finishing above any of them.
No, it's quite an interesting race. I think you said it a while ago. Those 3 teams have the better players, but of all of the 4, we've got the better manager. So it's literally our manager against better players. And I don't think that their players are that much better than ours, other than United maybe, that they can take it away from us now.
And I also echo what you said about Kane and form, and I'd keep an eye on it because honestly, he really looked back on it last night in terms of his overall game. Thanks so much, guys. Ted, where can everyone give you a follow on Twitter, mate?
At Rotation FPL.
Good man. And Ricky?
Ricky Saunders 77.
Super. Fantastic, lads. Clash of Correspondents, we've got 2 ahead of game week 24, which is currently scheduled for a midweek deadline in just under, 3 weeks? I want to say. Was it 2 weeks? I'm confused. But we've got 2 coming up. Next week will be Norwich versus Crystal Palace with FPL Badger and Big Tavius. And the following week, we'll have Manchester City versus Brentford with FPL Pringle and FPL Dummy Tom. Both of those on COTC before game week 24. Thanks again to Ted and to Ricky. Best of luck to your clubs at the weekend, especially ours, Ricky. Go on, Ricky, say it just to piss him off.
Come on, Tottenham.
Cue music, please, man, child.